Thank you for joining us for the IEEE Computer Society Standards webinar series, brought to you by the Standards Activities Board. With over 225 standards that transform the way we live, work, and communicate, the IEEE Computer Society sets the standard for design automation, simulation, testing technologies, Ethernet and Wi-Fi, quality assurance processes, systems architecture, DevOps, and more. Standards deliver best practice processes for developing market-ready interoperating systems, products, and services. You can have an impact by joining one of the over 200 IEEE Computer Society Standards working groups. Participating in one of the working groups grants you access to information that reduces risks, increases proficiency, and shapes the future of the industry. Help determine what's next in computing technology. Learn more about our standard working groups at computer.org/standards.
Okay, so good morning. Good morning or good afternoon and evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to today's webinar from our Standards Activity Board series. And today's presentations from one of the IEEE Computer Society's newest standards, online gaming and esports, presenting a panel discussion on standards pathway for an open virtual world. My name is Edward Au. I am the chair of the Standards Activity Board Standard Committees at the IEEE Computer Society. Before we get started, I would like to adjust some housekeeping items with all of you. This webinar is being recorded. You can ask any questions in the Q&A box you see on your screen. The panelists will answer as many questions as they can following their presentation. If possible, please reference the slide your question refers to. A copy of the slides and the recorded webinar will be emailed to you tomorrow. The IEEE Computer Society is a global community where you can learn about online gaming standards and esports and discover more. Get involved by keeping up with our ongoing calls for participation within standard board activities and connect with other professionals. As a part of this network, you have the opportunity to adjust the growing needs of standardization within many industries and technologies. Expand your knowledge with our Computer Society digital library that features almost 30,000 papers and articles, highlighting the latest research in online gaming and esports. Furthermore, you can go with our other professionals through different kinds of opportunities, such as telco communities, conference, and local chapters. Information will be shared after the webinar. You can always learn more at computer.org. And circling back to today's presentation, online gaming and esports, driven by innovative technologies, are two of the world's largest and fastest growing industry. The Standing Committee chaired by Alicia aims to bring together service providers, developers, publishers, gamers, event organizers, and other stakeholders in the global gaming and esports industries to develop technical standards to support progress in all aspects of online gaming and esports. The panel will explore the technical issues challenging the industry's continued growth. They will discuss the 4 standard projects underway in the field of cloud computing and esports, as well as pathways to interoperability standards within the region of online gaming. They will share observations on the growth of esports globally, how the pandemic has accelerated the popularity of gaming and esports. We will also explore the broad application perspective of gaming technologies in digital chains, industrial simulation, online education, and other fields in this presentation. And the IEEE Computer Society panel here will discuss with the global audience how to enable a safe and substantial environment for gaming and esports industries by establishing standards for the future open virtual world. Speaking today on our panel includes Alicia Ni, Chair of the IEEE Computer Society Online Gaming Standards Committee and Senior Engineer at Tungsten Technology, Professor Terrill, Vice Chair of the Committee and a Professor at Harrisburg University, Mr. Chester King, the Vice President of Global Esports Federation, and Dr. Chester Wu, Director of Tungsten Games. So first up is Alicia. Alicia, good evening. You have been chairing the Standing Committee on Online Gaming for a while. And I believe there are actually many things you would like to share with us through your presentation today. But before we do that, I just also want to remind the audience here that according to the bylaws of the IEEE Standards Association 5.2.1.6, all of our panelists here and also myself, the moderator, just express our own point of views. What we mentioned today are our personal views rather than the formal position of IEEE and IEEE SA. So Alicia, it's your turn. You have been chairing the Standard Committee for about 2 years already. Could you share with us about the objectives of your committee and all the exciting projects that you are leading? Alicia, thank you. Please share with us.
Thank you, Edward. Thank you. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alicia Nie, and I think it's my pleasure to be here today. And I'd like to take this opportunity to share with you how IEEE OGSC was established in the first place and what kind of research and development work have been carried out in here and some of our future work plans. So as we know, standards make technology pervasive. Worldwide adopted platforms require multiple standards on functionality, capabilities, interoperabilities, and etc. And starting with the basic question, why our gaming and esports industry standards are needed. And here are some reasons. Gaming and esports are typical industries driven by new technologies. Technical standards are built between content providers, network carriers, terminal vendors, chipset vendors for better collaborations and optimizations. And in order to promote a healthy and sustainable environment for the industry, standards are also needed to address social issues such as the protection of children's well-being, protection of copyright, energy consumption, and access to underserved geographies. And last but not least, standards are also vital because many technologies that are born and raised in gaming industry are also empowering other industries such as transportations, educations, and health. So our industry has been fueled by some new technologies and exciting applications. One of them is cloud gaming, which is viewed as the new racetrack for gaming industry. And esports is continuing to grow rapidly in terms of popularity and participation, especially amongst the younger generation. Esports has been named as a full medal event for the 2022 Asian Games. And the Commonwealth Esports Championships will be held in conjunction with the Commonwealth Games 2022 in Birmingham. There is an urgent need for the industry to develop standards to guarantee the fairness and also to improve the production quality and efficiency for esports. And game engines, with the increasing powerful functions of game engines, it has become an essential tool for creating virtual worlds, and the application scenarios are no longer limited to games. It can be widely used in many fields, such as filmmaking, automatic driving, and architectural planning. And the demands on motion capture and avatar images are greatly increasing for filmmaking, virtual shows, intelligent customer services as well. So standards will enable and accelerate these crossover applications. And so the IEEE OGSC was formed to address the growing needs of standardization in gaming and esports industry. Since the industry is such a broad industry, the standards development is conducted in different working groups. Each working group will set up a roadmap and carry out the development of series of standards according to the technology trends, according to the market demands. And at this point, there are two working groups established in IEEE OGSC. One is Cloud Gaming Working Group, and the other is Esports Working Group. It's worth mentioning that there are vacancies of vice chair and secretary for the Esports Working Group. Now let's dive in the standards development in IEEE OGSC. Currently, there are 4 standards projects underway. The first project is in Cloud Gaming Working Group for the framework and definitions for cloud gaming. It defines important terminologies for cloud gaming for the first time. It details the roles and modules of cloud gaming system from a user and function point of view. And since cloud gaming is a new form of service still in early development stage, it's critical to deliver a stunning user experience. So the second standard project is proposed to set evaluation models and methods of end-to-end user experience for cloud gaming. This includes the evaluation of important features such as audio and video quality, stutter, latencies, according to different genres of games. And we also have 2 projects underway in Esports Working Group. As we know, the development of any competitive sport is inseparable from the ultimate pursuit of fairness. Esports has been recognized as mainstream sports by many international sports associations, so it's critical to guarantee the fairness of esports. This guide provides the technical references and requirements of environmental equality, procedural justice, and fair play to maximize the fairness of esports. And the last project is the guide for broadcasting esports event, which addresses technical and managerial issues for esports live streaming and broadcasting, including the video coding, the audio coding requirements, the network transmission requirements, the copyright protection, and also fault tolerances. So hopefully you all have a better understanding of what we've been doing so far. And in the end, let's look forward to some future work plans for IEEE OGSC. Nowadays, it's just hard not to have become aware of the metaverse. From my personal point of view, the metaverse is far from a unified concept, and we believe that the metaverse is an integral part of gaming's future. We don't know when exactly the metaverse will come. These core capabilities of metaverse is inseparable from standards. There are many interesting technical areas worth exploring for standards development. IEEE OGSC is aiming to establish standards for the future open virtual world and promote the metaverse interoperability along with other standards committees in IEEE, along with other interested standards development organizations, colleges, and industry alliances. If you are any intrigued in joining us, please don't hesitate to contact me or visit our website for more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you very much for your leadership and also share with the audience about the high-level information about your standing committees and all the 4 exciting active projects under your standing committee. Just like Alicia mentioned, if any of you are interested in participating into these exciting projects and or want to connect with those standards participants with lots of experience in gaming and esports, I would encourage you to contact Alicia offline for more information. And then, talking about the value of the standards, while many of you may know that standards turn innovation into business and market, another important value of standards is interoperability, because it may help improve the market competition. In the next presentation, that is from Professor Terrill, France. He will share with us his point of view on this topic, that is interoperability in both the technical and non-technical aspects. Terrill, it's your turn. Please share with us your insightful prediction on the futures that I am very excited to hear from you in the next few minutes.
Thanks for the introduction, Edward, and greetings, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here today, and I hope we have a lot of fruitful and interesting conversation once the presentations are over. And that's really what I'm trying to focus on in my very short introduction here, is really give us some things to think about as a group, rather than me, coming up with some grand scheme. We're still in the very early stages of a developing technology, and basically who knows where this will all end up over the course of our lifetimes, quite frankly. So I just have a couple slides here just to get your mind on the subject and hopefully spark some interest in some questions and conversation later on. So the first thing I'm just making, the first point I want to make out as far as I see it from a systemic perspective, the esports world and gaming is very much a excuse me, a closed system as far as I see it from a business perspective. And what happens is with a closed system, it makes it quite difficult for new entrants to enter that system. Without standards, we have technical barriers to that entryway, both socially barriers, but also technical barriers in that a new entrant would have to either adopt the quote-unquote standard of some gaming provider, or have to try to climb that Mount Everest of a challenge of having to perhaps try to develop a standard and push out adoption of that standard on their own. So there's a lot of heavy lifting for new entrants. And essentially what this means is that the cost for new entrants into this closed system, I think we all could come from the frame that, well, most of us could come from the frame that an open system is good for everybody. Companies like Apple may disagree, but we'll see where that goes. But basically, what this means is that the costs for new entrants, new ideas, new innovation, et cetera, are quite high when there is not a great deal of standardization available in the market, essentially, or the technology. I would like to also point out that it is important, because this is a business as well, esports, and there's another observation that one should make about there are non-technological standards also potentially hindering the growth of this industry, and things like norms of how business activity and transactions are carried out. Things like advertising and how contracts are made with advertisers. Salaries are still much a very open game. There really isn't a standard career pathway, salary-wise, et cetera. These are things that us in the technical space we typically don't think of, but in this particular setting, this domain of esports and such, I think it's really mission critical to our growth and survival, quite frankly. So this lack of non-technological standards also creates a lot of costs and really new entrant costs, much like the technological standards, but a lot of confusion and missing opportunities. And quite frankly, there's a lot of wasteful legal costs, which is probably true in any setting. But I want you, the point here is to think about there are other standards beyond what we focus in our group that are non-technology standards that do play a part in the growth of our sport and industry. So, you know, here, I guess you could, I don't know if this is the aha moment, but what I'm trying to do is just really put together 3 possible futures as I see. Now, obviously, I'm going to be wrong, but this is just to get your mind around what the future might look like when it comes to standardization, in particular the technical standards, but keep in mind the non-technical standards. So what we could see right now, one possible future, I'll call it future 0, not that it is a 0, but you know, we're growing quite rapidly right now in a very positive direction, no doubt. But you know, we could just simply have a future where things are as they are right now. The IEEE group, you know, plugs ahead and puts together some standards. But a lot of the technical standards are still in a closed system, as you probably are aware. Another possible future is where the de facto standard groups, that is the big industry players, buy into the notion of having open standards, open technology standards. They embrace very much like, I guess you could say, Windows. They embrace new entrants into the system, and the point here is that these big industry players could see that there is value in taking the technology and the sport, et cetera, to the next level by going public on standards and allowing for others to modify and develop the standards. So rather than just keeping it as a closed system where they have essentially complete control, they open it up and throw standards out into the wild in the hopes that the pie grows well beyond what it is today. One interesting thought that I'd like to plant in your minds is the notion of advertising is really important, not only in esports, but any sport and activity, quite frankly. And what has happened in some large major sports around the world, if not all of them, the advertisers that have nothing to do with the sport itself, the Coca-Colas, the Pepsis, and so on of the world, start to have greater power in the forward progress of the industry and standards associated with that. And this could very well be a future that we end up being in. And so normally, I would think anyway, you may differ, this would be a boon towards having open standards. And because the entities, the advertisers outside of the industry itself will insist on such things because they're very business focused. They want to reduce costs, they want to reduce inefficiencies and so on, but also grow the size of the industry as well. So in sum here, and in conclusion for me, and I hope this spawns some ideas on you because there are a lot more possible futures in our future. But one future for a pathway for standardization is nothing changes. We continue as we are, kind of fragmented a little bit in my view. We could see the large industry players start to open up their technologies for innovation from outsiders. Or a third option might be where the non-industry players actually force it upon the industry to become more standardized by, therefore reducing costs and inefficiencies, et cetera. So what I pose to you for our conversation later on is, what kind of futures do you see? What kind of future when it comes to developing standards and openness or not, do you think is better for our industry for its growth that we all hope and hopefully will enjoy in the future? That's it for me, Edward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, especially for your prediction on looking ahead for the futures. I believe, based on your over 20 years experience in finance and also native to academics, it may be some of the, we may never know, but maybe some of your prediction will come true. But thanks again. Okay, and then for this panel, as you know, we focus not only on gaming, but also on esports. So actually, today we are very happy to have Mr. Chester King with us. Mr. King is the Vice President of the Global Esports Federation, the GEF. The GEF actually prioritized the development of an inclusive, safe, healthy, and substantial esports ecosystem with a particular focus on responsible gaming. Mr. King, with your over 30 years of senior management experience within the healthcare, marketing, sports, leisure industry, we are glad you are here to share with our audience your insight on the esports industry. Mr. King, it's your floor, please.
Thank you very much, Edward, and hello, everyone. So the Global Esports Federation was founded in December 2019. But what is important to know is all the people involved in it have been in different industries for years, coming from sports, coming from the IOC, and coming from business. And what the reason why this kind of organization was created was exactly what we're talking about today, about creating good standards. And what we have is a very strong mission and values. And you can see on this slide that we're very proud of what we're trying to be as inclusive and fair as possible. And what is interesting about the esports industry is there are about 40 different esports that are recognized, and there's multiple platforms. So for example, in Asia, there's titles and games that are much more popular than they are in different countries. So I was in India 2 weeks ago, and mobile gaming is very strong there. So games like PUBG and Call of Duty Mobile, whereas in the UK, we're a very strong console community. So, PlayStation is very popular, Call of Duty is very popular. So what's interesting to me about the industry is it looks very complicated from the outside, but from actually each particular esport, like you have in sports, there are kind of a rule set that's happening, and each publisher is doing that. And some publishers get very involved in the esports element, the competitive gaming element, and some are kind of more relaxed and allow open source for tournaments, CSGO in particular, and Dota is another one. But what's important to know about us as an organization is what we're trying to do to help improve. And we're very lucky with the partners we've got. So we've got over 112 member federations, so that's national federations around the world, and that number is ever increasing. But we have a number of global partners, and we're very lucky and honored to have Tencent as our initial global partner. But if you look at this list, you can see that we've aligned ourselves and partnered with the Commonwealth Games, which we're going to talk about, but also the Invictus Games and different Olympic organizations and UNESCO. And what is really important for you to understand is why are they partnering with us and why are we partnering with them? And we're trying to share best practice and create the best standards that we can in this ever evolving industry. And what's interesting about esports is that in each country, they class it as something different. So under the UK, and I run the British Esports Federation, we are classed as a game like chess and bridge. So we have a lot less regulation and standards in the UK than you would do in sport. And it's something that's really challenging for us in the UK. And one thing in particular, and Terrill just said it, about computing standards is around, for me, around coaching standards. So in physical sport, in UK law, if I deliver teaching of a sport to children under 18, I have to have my police record checked of me. But at the moment, if I do online coaching, there's no police record of me. So as a parent or as a teacher, that I don't know my background because that law hasn't been established yet. There's a new law called the Online Harms Bill that's going through Parliament now. And we are pushing as our industry, as the esports industry, to make sure that there is some standards. So we're working with the NSPCC and we're working globally to try and educate people to make sure they understand who is teaching their children online and coaching online. So for me, my definition of standards and what we're trying to achieve is really important. And what happened during the pandemic is there was this brilliant emergence of sports and esports coming together, and we run and in the UK, we ran the only after-school tournament that carried on in esport throughout the whole of the pandemic. So what we set up in the Global Esports Federation is a number of commissions and councils that really try and address all the different elements of esports in the industry, and we have commissions. We've just set up a Metaverse Council, but we're very keen to make sure there's a difference between the grassroots esports and also professionalism as well. So I would encourage you to have a look at the Global Esports Federation and what we're trying to do. This is all I'm a volunteer. Everyone on the commission are volunteers. There's council volunteers. We're very respectful of what the IEEE are doing as well, and we're trying to work closely with the ITU and UNESCO. With the events that we've done, our last event, which was the Global Esports Games, which was in December in Singapore, which we had a lot of COVID restrictions, had 500 million views, over 163,000 views watched. And at one point, we were having 4.4 million concurrent. And I think it was the second largest viewed esports event of all time. And then I've got a few photographs here from that event in Singapore. We had Ministers' event. We did a Metaverse a promotion as well. But what's really important to know around standards is that we used a production company. We kind of self-set our standards because there aren't any global standards yet. But it was really important to know that we took the best practice we could from different industries to create the standards that we had, because basically there weren't any standards. So we're really excited about the opportunity of working together on this. So the next Global Esports Games is in Istanbul in December, and then we're in Riyadh next year. And we've actually got the next 5 years mapped out of Global Esports Games, where this is for all the 112 or 115 member nations competing. And then lastly, we've got the Commonwealth Esports Championships. So as Alicia said at the beginning, this is a parallel event with the Commonwealth Games. And what a lot of people like who, let's say, are traditional sports fans, is that the esports element is being run in parallel, and we're taking the best practice we can and best standards, but it is a standalone event with its own medals and its own production. And so again, this is the first significant one, but in September, I think, or slightly delayed in Hangzhou, is the Asian Games, where these are going to be full medal events. So we're living in a really exciting time. It's interesting about the future and what's going to happen. Personally, I think it will still stay quite closed for a while until we get the professional standards in place, and then it will probably open out. But each publisher, who in my opinion is doing a great job within their own title, is trying to develop that. And if you look at the Call of Duty League or the Overwatch League, or you look at what Riot are doing in League of Legends, or even Psyonix are doing in Rocket League, they're all having different strategy at the moment. But I think as a minimum, there should be online protection standards, and then obviously what you guys are developing on the broadcasting standards. So for me, it's a really exciting time, and we're just trying to reach out to the different industries and communities to get best practice to deliver and improve global standards. Thank you very much, Edward.
Thank you, Mr. King. I'm very happy to hear that esports is continuing to grow dramatically in terms of popularity and participation, especially as you mentioned amongst the young generation, right? Young people. And it's also great that, as you mentioned, the first Commonwealth Esports Championship and Commonwealth Esports Forum to take place in UK this year. I believe this is the first of the year. No, I should say it is the first time the organization is organizing this event. So I look forward to success from you and from your college in GEF for this important event. Okay, and thanks, Mr. King again. Then we go on to talk about a little bit more on online gaming from our next panel. Because you may look, I believe many audience here may think that online gaming in esports may be limited to entertainment, but as Mr. King mentioned before, it's not the case. Actually, as you will hear from our next panelists, gaming can also be done for good. So now we invite Dr. Terrill, who is the director of the Game Engine Department in Tension, to give his point of view on different applications on online gaming. Dr. Hu, it's your turn to share with us all your insightful comments on the gaming for good. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. This is Carter Wu from Tencent Games. I'm honored to have the opportunity here to tell you about how gaming technology is driving the development of civilization and technology beyond games. A video game is an electronic game that involves interaction with a user interface or input device to generate visual feedbacks. As video games have increased in popularity over the time, they have had a significant influence on our popular culture and society. In this talk, I will present applications beyond games and discuss some of the key points of the gaming tech. Besides entertainment values, game technologies has broad applications beyond games. For example, for educations, appropriate designed video games have been seen to provide value in education across several ages. And Ready Player One shows us a world in which humans interact with each other as avatars in a 3D virtual space. That is the metaverse. And the metaverse is getting real nowadays as Facebook and other giants enter this area. And as new products become more complex these days, the concepts of digital twins become critical. All these applications need the help of gaming tech. And for transportations, we believe that it is the digital path to smart cities. A strong digital ecosystem combined with gaming tech is the key to creating and sustaining smart cities. Gaming tech is also widely used in simulations and in industries. At the same time, with the rapid development of games, gaming technologies related to above applications have also developed rapidly, and I will show you some of the important ones. First of all, as products become more complex, the concepts of digital twins become critical. We want to create computer-generated models, and those models are identical to real objects we are trying to build in our real life. And we want it to be real both in appearance and in physical behaviors. Because gaming technology is unrivaled in real-time rendering, therefore, for the digital twin scenario, game technology can provide a variety of technical capabilities, including 3D scanning modeling, and material reconstruction, and real-time lighting and shadow rendering. And it also can provide capabilities from AI, artificial intelligence, AR, VR, and even to cloud rendering. Innovations will see the adoption of digital twins in more fields, from smart cities to medical devices, by integrating these gaming technologies. And more realistic gaming images and interactions and the more immersive large-scale worlds are critical to the above applications. Real-time rendering of objects, materials, lights, and shadows, and even go beyond the real lighting into supernatural illumination is possible using nowadays game rendering techniques. Another problem is about who creates these contents. These high-quality 3D models and materials are usually considered professional generated contents, which is called PGC. Nowadays, we see new game tools that enable normal users to generate high-quality 3D contents, which is called the OGSC. And this is a challenge for us, and we still need to do a lot of work in this area. Secondly, game technology not only has a very strong advantage in modeling and real-time rendering, but also has excellent capabilities in interactive methods. For example, in online education, game technologies can make educations truly entertaining. We see that the young generations who are digital natives grow up using smartphones. Naturally, online games have become a part of their lifestyle for many of them. And for them, gaming is more than just a leisure activity. Because in today's world, highly professional skills are demanded in many areas. People dig deep into subjects that interest them, which require lifelong learning. And the video games can help teenagers build long-term ambitions through fun interaction and exploration. There have been a number of new technology applications in recent years, include some, I already mentioned, virtual reality, augmented reality, and extended reality. And we expect more exciting new interactions once these applications mature. And probably when it becomes true, I think it will be much easier and more fun for every one of us to learn how to be a pilot and pilot a plane. Finally, game technology is also one of the core technologies of the future metaverse. VR, XR, and cloud rendering technologies all need the help of game technologies. The combination of those game technologies, I think it serves as the shortest technical route to bring users into the virtual world of metaverse. We are about to create digital humans, each with different behaviors, facial expression, and outfits. This has inspired us to imagine a more realistic, mega-scale city for the future. As we are already on the road to metaverse, we hope game will unleash their abilities as a hyper-digital reality to connect tightly to the real world and to stimulate the interest in more people and open up more possibilities in people's lives. I think metaverse adds a new dimension, to games, and also gaming technologies accelerates the development of underlying foundations for metaverse, both in the tech side and in the ecology side. And for all the above key technologies, the combination of all the above key technologies are game engines. Tencent Games invests a lot in game engines, and we are also developing new game engines. One of these game engines is the Tencent Cross Engine. This engine is the latest game engine in Tencent. We built the engine from scratch and embrace the open source society. The engine is cross-platform, and we already use this engine beyond games. We use it in educations, and we use it when we want to digitalize the cultural relics, and also in social communication applications and pilot training simulation applications. I think that's all, and let's do a recap. In this talk, we discussed the applications and the key technologies of gaming tech that can go beyond games and into many areas around our lives. As we can see, video games has infinite possibilities, and they should take on more social responsibilities. Video games and technologies could be used for education, industry, and the future metaverse, as I just mentioned, and it will help deliver better results to human beings. I think that technology for social good is a great idea, and it is what we should do as a member of the gaming society. In order to better promote those gaming technologies, we urgently need more gaming tech standards, I think. And this is what we have been doing for almost 2 years, and will continue to do in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wu. Thank you for your insightful comments and details on different kinds of applications for gaming. It is really not limited to entertainment, but also there are many things for the community good. This is very excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Wu. So now we actually go to the Q&A part. So as I mentioned at the beginning, everyone who would like to ask our panelists questions, please feel free to type your question in the Q&A box. And so far, I already received some questions. The first question we received is about the non-technological aspect. Maybe it's more related to Terrill's presentation about looking ahead to the future. Because the question I received here is that are the non-technological aspects, for example, some practice like ethics, business continuity, conduct of social media are important to be considered for standardization. So, Mr. King, I believe from GEF point of view, do you have any comment or things that you would like to respond to this question?
Yes, please. Sorry, I typed it, but I realised we were talking about it. So what we've done, where my British Esports hat, is that we created a code of conduct. So this was starting at a grassroots level, at school level, that when you compete in esports tournaments, a bit like you do in sport, that you have to respect your competitors. You've got to treat them correctly.
Correct.
And each publisher, each pro team, each esports production company has standards that you normally sign up when you join that event to say that you will respect and adhere to that. So I think the standardization is good, but it is very separate at the moment per event. But also what's happening or has happened in the UK is we now have qualifications in esports. And at a high school level, we've got 5,000 students studying different elements of esports. And there's 32 university courses now where you can study esports in the UK. And this, again, is covering, it's taking the best bits from different aspects outside of the esports industry. So the Global Esports Federation have acknowledged this, and they've created an education alliance with the top 10 esports countries at the moment, and they've created the Global Esports Academy. And this is exactly what you're saying. We need to work in combination of what the IEEE are doing as well, so that we create these global standards. So yeah, it's very important, but it's got to be done at the same time as all these other standards.
Great. So, Mr. King, so from your point of view, it's not only from the government regulation, but maybe also equally important is maybe we should have industry-driven standards to ensure that, because it is a global participation, we understand from your point of view there are many good things happen in UK, but as you mentioned, just like GEF, you have many audience from different people because you have worldwide events. So maybe standards are very important, right? To ensure that globally we follow some recommended practice or code of conduct, right?
Yeah, I think at the moment there isn't enough, which is good on one level, globally government standards in esports. So we as an industry need to take responsibility and share best practice, and exactly as you said, from different countries about what is good without causing too much red tape. But ultimately we want to create a very safe and healthy environment for people to game and play esports together. But at the moment, in the UK there is no regulation, but in other countries there might be some, but we just need to navigate that and create kind of these standards. So this is, repeating myself, these are really exciting times that we can all help each other on a global scale.
Awesome. Thank you for the insightful comments, and also let us know what happened in UK. Thank you very much. So, Terry, sorry to put you on the spot, because your presentation actually also covered technical standards and non-technical standards. How do you think about this question? I mean, the question rather ethics, business continuity, and conduct of social media. Rather, you believe we should also consider standardization based on your over 20 years business experience?
Well, goodness, Edward, you did put me on the spot on that one, but that's your job. So, you know, what's going through my mind now, for better or worse, but hopefully gives you something to think about in the audience and panelists too. Our industry, this industry today, really needs to move forward, working in a lot of parallel tracks all at the same time. Historically, if you look back at the development of, let's just say, sports, you know, baseball in the United States and other sports, you know, global soccer or, you know, football, has followed the same trajectory where things evolved over time in a sequential manner. So baseball, for example, in the United States, again, as an example, but it's true throughout, was very corrupt in the early days. There was gambling going on in professional baseball. There was, you know, a lot of cheating going on. Not to say it doesn't happen today, but the sport evolved sequentially, and things like, you know, ethics developed over decades of mistake making, and so on. The same is true with classical computing. It was developed in a very serial fashion, and now we're at the stage where, you know, it's not about the technology, it's more about the ethics and privacy issues of that technology. What's interesting in this space, and by the way, I work in the quantum computing field too, and both phenomena, both technologies are burdened, if I may, with having to solve all problems at the same time. And meaning, because we understand ethics is important, we understand business models and efficiencies in business advertising, as well as the technology, which is very complex on its own, all have to be worked on at the same time. So I think that's a really big challenge and complexity that we have to deal with.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your insightful comments. And I do hope that maybe sooner or later your standing committee, I mean, you as a vice chair and Alicia as the chair may also consider non-technical aspect to be, you know, for the community good. Thank you. So maybe let us go to the second question, because I see lots of questions are coming inbox now. So this question from another audience is about metaverse. Because the audience say that a question is, how is metaverse important to the standing committee on online gaming and esports, and also how it is important to the GEF, I mean the Global Esports Federation? Because the commenters say that Alicia mentions briefly about metaverse is the future, and also the audience understand that GEF also recently launched the Metaverse Council. So actually, the audience would like each of the panelists to share with us some their thoughts on the metaverse. So let me ask each of you in the presentation order. Then, Alicia, do you have any thoughts about the metaverse? Because you know, the audience would like to know how metaverse are important to the online gaming and esports. What's your professional point of view on that?
Thank you, Edward. It's an interesting question. From my personal point of view, the metaverse is still far from a unified concept, but it will definitely bring a larger scale virtual world that can be interacted in real time. And to build a metaverse world requires also measurement of the real world and twin reconstruction in the digital world. And also at the same time, it also needs to build the operating rules, new operating rules for the new world, and invoke huge computing power to simulate, to render a 3D presence. So I think in short terms, it's important to, for IEEE OGSC to continue where we've been doing in standards development in gaming and esports industry, and also other SDOs and industry alliances should work together to promote the interoperability for the standards. I do believe that the metaverse will involve a constellation of standards in different areas, and it's just practical and also actionable for different SDOs, different parties to work together and to promote the interoperability of the standards, as touched on by Terrill earlier. So that's some of my thoughts on this question. Thank you.
Great. So I would also encourage audience who are interested in metaverse for online gaming to contact Alicia and to contribute to her standard committees. Okay, so Tara, you again. So do you have any comments on how's the metaverse importance to the online gaming and esports?
I think it's going to be huge. Mm-hmm. Tremendous. It's going to take things like esports, which is still, as I see it, a rather niche industry, although growing in size, it's still niche compared to a lot of other industries and sports and activities. So I think the metaverse is just the thing with the metaverse. For it to really grow, it must, in my view, have technological standards, no question about it. Mm-hmm. So that, again, the new entrants, that's what makes an activity or sport or industry robust. It's the ability for new entrants to come in, and if and that's driven by the availability of standards. You may have a company like, let's say, Metaverse or formerly Facebook or whatever, maybe start the industry, but eventually that will die off, and it should be a completely open platform. The sooner the better, in my opinion. But it will force the issue, no doubt. Interoperability is what the metaverse is all about, as I see it.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, so actually this is maybe more on the technical side, especially we still have many different technological challenges to consider for metaverse, because from my personal point of view, it's the beginning, but it will be sooner or later getting more and more popular. Thanks. So, Mr. King, the audience not only asked for the standard development, but also the audience understand that GEF also launched the Metaverse Council. Can you provide some insight about how's importance metaverse to gaming industry, esports industry, and GEF? Mr. King, please.
Thanks, Edward. Yeah, so look, anyone that's played Grand Theft Auto has been playing in the metaverse for years. Grand Theft Auto 5 has been like $1 billion plus, $5 billion plus game. So for kind of a lot of generations, they've already been playing in a form of a metaverse. And what I think a lot of people don't quite understand is there's a number of different metaverse platforms. Mm-hmm. There's Sandbox and stuff like that. So everyone talks about the metaverse, but actually there are multiple metaverses, which is kind of like kind of a silly thing on one level, because you'd want to be able to be on one massive metaverse. So I think for us, wearing Global Esports Federation hat, is to get people together in a room that are involved in the different platforms like Sandbox, the different publishers. Because for me personally, I think you're going to end up having a different. So I'm Chester. I'm going to have a different avatar potentially on 20 different metaverse platforms, and there's no continuity on that. And it'd be interesting if you can get people to agree on standards, because these are big organizations that are competitors, commercial competitors. So for us, we wanted to create a forum where people could talk and discuss about the plans in the future. I know, one of the organizations that we work with, IBM, are very interested in, how does one get to one metaverse platform to the other? There was a famous kids program called Wreck-It Ralph, where it was a video arcade, but they all met in this station and went off to the different arcades. And I think with the metaverse, what is that station going to be? What is that transition where you as an individual, as an avatar, might be in one platform and then go off to another? How is that done? And is that by everyone agreeing on standards? So there's a whole load of stuff being discussed. As Alicia said at the beginning, it's very new. People don't quite know the direction, but they know that it is going to be big. And what's interesting, if you take Epic Games, who are a massive game publisher who own Fortnite and they own Rocket League, what you can now do in Fortnite is you can go in Fortnite and you can go and watch professionals playing Rocket League. And when you're watching in Fortnite, you're getting points for watching your team. So there's already a crossover. It's really exciting. And as you know, hopefully in Fortnite, they've done live broadcasts with DJs like Travis, which got like 12 million views. So they've been experimenting already. And then when it actually comes to competitions, it's going to be interesting. The current big format is Battle Royale, where you have 100 players like Fortnite and PUBG. Wow. When you become metaverse, will it be 1,000 players or 10,000 players? But as I say, there's different elements already started, and the idea of the Global Esports Federation Metaverse Council was trying to kind of get like a think tank together. So yeah, really exciting. Metaverse has been happening, and it's going to be happening even more.
Oh, cool.
Let me add, when Chester says a crossover, that suggests and in fact requires standards that are known, and that's the point, I think, part of it. Yep.
Yeah, because you exactly mentioned, both of you, about interoperability. Because if we are different players are using different platforms of metaverse, it may not easy to communicate with one another, I suppose, right? Yeah, but thanks, Mr. King. So, Dr. Hu, I understand that you actually have present a few applications related to metaverse, but I would also like you to answer the question from the audience. So how, from you and from your professional point of view, metaverse important to the online gaming industry, to Tangshan, or to the standards? Dr. Hu?
Yeah. I think it's a very good question, and I just answer it in very simple form. Just imagine that if there's already a metaverse existing, just like the in the movies, and when you are in the metaverse and when you do sports in metaverse, I think that's everything that in the metaverse, every sport in the metaverse is esports, and so I think when you enter metaverse, it will create a lot of possibilities for games and for esports. That's my point of view.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hu. Yeah, thank you for the insightful comment from all of you about that. Actually, we also have a few questions, relate to metaverse. While I understand that we may be already passed through the 10 a.m. Eastern time, but I hope that all of you, you are okay if we answer one more question from the audience. So the question I have here is, will game engines play an important role in the metaverse? So maybe I let Alicia to answer first. Alicia, how do you think about the game engines? From your expertise in standardization and your experience working in Tangshan for gaming and esports, how do you think about game engines? Is this really a very important component that we should always pay attention to?
Mm-hmm. So game engines reduce the difficulty and workload of game development currently, and as the increasing powerful functions of game engines, it has been viewed as an important tool for creating the virtual worlds for the metaverse. So I think in the metaverse future, gamers or users can create their own digital content, and also can store can bind their digital content assets, can manage their digital content assets. So I think that's what game engine will enable the user scenarios in the metaverse.
Thank you, Alicia. So I understand actually some of your working groups also focus on game console, right? Maybe game console and game engines may be kind of interrelated to one another. Is this the case?
Game consoles?
Okay. Yeah.
Game consoles?
Anyway, so maybe there are some misunderstanding, but anyway, it's okay. Let me try to clarify her question. But what I mean is, in your working group, you also have some focus on the configuration or on the framework, right? So I believe game engines is one of part of the framework that your standing committee focus on. Is this correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you, Alicia. Okay, so Terrill, do you have any comment you would like to answer about how important the game engines?
Well, I mean, as Alicia said, and somewhere I think it was her who mentioned the word enable, and I think that's the operative word of the day. We want to do activities, we want to put together documents, we want to put together ideas that enable the growth and development of the industry and the sports. And one way to enable that is to develop standards, and game engines are standards. As a developer, that's what I consider them to be. And as Alicia said, it reduces the cost. Again, I'll go back to that point of it reduces the cost for new entrants. So the interesting thing will be eventually, just like anyone literally can put a web page on the internet in minutes, whether you're technically oriented or not. I think the metaverse will be in that space. Of course, I'll leave that to Chester and others and Alicia to articulate that better. But I think it's all about the word enablement. Great
insight. Yeah, I believe actually, with the growing popularity of AI and 5G, this kind of things will transfer today's game engines into reality engines for collaboration and emotional participation. But Mr. King, do you also have any insight about game engines, especially for metaverse?
Yeah, to be honest, I think Carter is the expert on this. I mean, the only thing I would say about the metaverse for me and about what's going to happen is around intellectual IP is that no one owns buildings. So, for example, I know that there's one organization that have built like a Fifth Avenue or a Rodeo Drive in a number of platforms, and then they're selling IP around that. So to me, I know it's slightly off tangent on the games because I'm going to leave that to Carter, but it's really interesting what's going to happen, as I say, on these multiple worlds. So I'm really excited, as you can tell. I think it's going to be a huge opportunity in esports, but I'm going to leave it to Dr. Carter to kind of get into game engines because that's slightly outside of my remit.
Okay, no problem. Dr. Wu, everyone points to you as an expert in this area, so we really want to understand more from your professional point of view. Carter, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's a great question, and to my point of view, traditionally we think game engine as game client engine, right? So I just talk about the visuals and 3D rendering and these kind of things. And when it comes to metaverse, we need to put the client engine and the server engine into unique and I think into one engine. And the game engine will evolve a lot to adapt to the metaverse scenario. And so I think it's a very important role in the metaverse, and maybe it lays the foundation for the metaverse to be possible. Yeah, and but I think the most important thing for the metaverse is about the content creation, as I think someone already mentioned that, and because metaverse it's maybe a real world or something that's very similar to the real world, the content generation is very expensive, I think, in these days, and we need new innovative technologies, tools and DCC softwares that enables normal people to generate content for the metaverse, so that above the foundation of the game engines, users can generate a lot of real objects, real maybe world objects, and so we can build the metaverse by every one of us. And so I think the game engine is just the foundation. It's just a start point. And after that, the metaverse needs, we needed to pay more attention to the content creation part for the metaverse. And from the standards point of view, I think that, as Alicia just mentioned, game engine, we lack standards for game engines. I think we cannot give a definition for game engines. It's just a collection of tools, the core tools. And maybe we need a standard to identify what is a special game engine, what is a general game engine. And also, the standards is very important for metaverse. We still do not know what is the metaverse. And if we can make up standards from our practice, and I think it will be much easier for us to answer this question and work on game engines to support the metaverse. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Carter, for all the insightful comments about how game engines play the important role in metaverse, in online gaming, esports, and also the standardization. Thank you for all the great insight. Thank you very much. So now, actually, it's the end of the presentation. Thank you again for all the great questions we received from the audience here. And we are sorry that we were not able to address them all today. Before we wrap up, I quickly want to note our upcoming webinar schedule. The next webinar from the Standard Activities webinar series will be from the Smart Manufacturing Standards Working Group on June 28th at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. In addition, our Computer Society will be putting on 3 additional webinars between now and then. The first one is actually tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on AI opportunities and risks. And then on June 9th, from our distinguished lecture series, we will have a presentation titled Functional Safety and Soft Error Rate Modeling for Deep Learning Applications. And then on June 16th at 11 a.m., our Build Your Career webinar series will host a talk on considerations with senior management. You will be able to register for all of these webinars using the link you will receive in tomorrow's email with slides and recording of this webinar. Again, I would like to thank all of you for attending, and also I would like to thank Alicia, Terrill, Chester, and Carter for sharing their great insights with us. Thank you again, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much all. So it's now the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. Thank you, Edward.
Thank you, Edward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.